Welcome to the Black Entrepreneur Experience podcast, inside the business, buzz, and brilliance of Black entrepreneurs. Here is your host, Dr. Frances Richards.
Innovative Thinkers episode number 255. Innovative Thinkers. Our guests have sent us so much swag, books, and giveaways this year. I can't wait to announce our monthly winner. So if you want exclusive content delivered right to your inbox and to enter into our monthly drawing, go to drfrancesrichards.com and subscribe to our mailing list. That's drfrancesrichards.com. drfrancesrichards.com. That's drfrancesrichards.com and subscribe to our mailing list. We promise we will not spam you or sell your information. Thank you for joining us as we elevate the Black entrepreneur experience by interviewing CEOs, thought leaders, innovative thinkers, and Black entrepreneurs across the globe. I'm your host, Dr. Frances Richards. Do you want to know how to nail your pitch, present your business, and secure investors? Our next guest is Executive Director for Park City Angels, partners at ViaCap, and the author of the #1 trending book on raising capital. Welcome, Tim Cooley.
Hey, thank you for having me.
I've given our audience such a brief bio. Why don't you fill in the gaps and share with our audience what you'd like them to know about you and your business?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go back a little bit. So I've been in the entrepreneurship ecosystem for over 10 years in Salt Lake City. Kind of been able to watch it grow from something small to something big. If anyone's paying attention, there's been lots of billion-dollar exits lately. So that's been really cool. I started a number of companies, sold one of them, and then I ended up getting into the accelerator and incubation space. So was able to, coach and consult a bunch of companies, probably about 300 or so in all avenues of business. So, sales, marketing, fundraising, the whole works. And then I took that opportunity to get involved in the Angel Network. So I became the executive director for Park City Angels, like you mentioned. Been doing that for about 3 years. And then, before all that started, I actually was one of the founders of a seed fund at the University of Utah called Get Seeded. It's basically a grant style seed fund. It's a highly successful program for getting companies off the ground. So I've been around pitching and raising capital for most of my professional career.
That is the buzzword, getting capital. And what is something that we should know about the industry that we don't know?
Yeah, so I think a lot of things that people don't realize is it's much easier to get access to capital than people think, but it's also very difficult to get the close. So a lot of people think that I don't know anyone or, they're just these rich guys and they don't want to do anything and they don't want to help people like me. And I'll be honest, I had that same mentality when I first started because I didn't know the people. I didn't know them at all. And that's not true, especially not in today's world. People want to get to know you. They want to see what you're up to because you got to remember, like an investor wants to make more money. And so why wouldn't they want to hear your story if it could bring them more money?
Bingo. Tim, you are really singing right to where the tune that I want to hear. And so that's what we hear a lot, especially individuals that look just like me, Black and brown people. And so we're saying 1-2% are getting VC money. Talk specifically to Black and brown people.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that people need to realize is this is a marketing problem, right? And meaning that I do not have to do any marketing to get my inbox filled with pitch presentations, right? So I review roughly 100 presentations a month. So if I were to do marketing, spend money to go and get more, that would just make more work for me. So it's basically like I would be wasting money. So what we look for is people to come to us, right? And so what we see a lot of times, especially in different communities, is not sharing of information. So for example, like my friend is Hispanic and I'm like, come pitch, your business is really good. And finally, we're making that happen. But it took over a year to convince him that his business was worth it. And so hopefully what he does now is will go, and since he has that relationship and goes out and recruits other people of his, he's Hispanic, to go out and recruit other people in his neighborhood to come and pitch, right? Or to come and make a relationship with us. And so I think that's one of the bigger issues that we see is we don't have to go out and recruit. So I don't even know that you're raising money. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So talk about that perfect pitch. I want to raise money. What should I do?
Yeah. So the perfect pitch does this. It communicates really clearly the problem you're trying to solve, the solution that you're solving, or the solution that you're using to solve that problem. And then really what it shows is your ability as a CEO to put together a team and to actually go and get sales. Does that make sense? I mean, those are really high level, but when you can clearly communicate the problem that you have. So for example, like, let's just use my pitch deck book. If you can't communicate your problem very well, I can help you do that, right? It's very clear the problem that you have and the solution. The reality is in my industry, and most people think that they can communicate their problem clearly, but they truly can't. I would say less than 5% of pitches that I see are very well done.
Someone's listening and saying, okay, Tim, I need to develop my pitch. Tell me about your book.
Yeah, absolutely. So the book is laid out in a couple ways. It's basically 3 phases of raising capital. The first phase is all the things you need to do before you ever pitch to any investor. So for example, putting together a one-pager, basically single page that outlines the structure of the business, putting together a one paragrapher. So literally 4 sentences that sparks interest about your idea, and then putting together a 1-sentence thing that says, here's my business in less than 15 words. So those are some of the things that you need to do. And then it also highlights a lot of the misconceptions that we have. So for example, if you are in a meeting to raise capital, you have to realize that you already have a yes. They're already interested in funding you. At the point of communication, meaning before, during, and after, that's when you are convincing them that you're not worth the investment. And so I think that that's a really big mentality change for a lot of us, including myself when I was going out raising capital. And then that other thing, like I mentioned before, is they want to put money in your business, and so you have to keep them in this yes mentality. That's why you're there in the first place, is to talk to them. And then the other thing to keep in mind is you are not getting funded today. When you meet with me and we chat, no one's writing you a check today. That's not going to happen. It's not like the mythology of Shark Tank where they're like, here's your $1 million. Like even on Shark Tank, they don't get the money that day. So what you're trying to do, no matter what you're doing in pitching, is to get to the next meeting, which in our world is called due diligence. And so basically, if you can change your mindset when you're pitched that you just want to convince them that you're worth talking to again, it really helps lower the nerves, takes a lot of the pressure off. And that's a lot of what the book does. So it teaches you those concepts to think about. It also talks about how to format your presentation so that you're telling a really compelling story and why. So for example, when you're pitching, it's just not talking. You're not like, and here's my whatever, right? You're really having a dialogue with a person, even if they're not asking a question, right? So the very first thing, it's like, why are you here? And you're like, I'm here to raise money. I mean, so it's this very question and answer format. And the book covers on how to really communicate to that point. And then it talks about some like no-nos, like things you should never do, or at least in my opinion, never do. For example, like don't use video in your presentation. It doesn't work usually. It can cause more harm than good. Don't read note cards, probably the worst thing you could possibly do. So things like that.
If someone's interested in purchasing the book, how can they purchase the book?
Yeah, the best way to do it right now is just going to Amazon and then looking up the pitch deck book, and it should pop up.
Tim, what is the best decision you've made as a leader?
Oh my gosh, that is a great question. I think trusting myself. I have always been a person. So I was in the Marine Corps prior to getting started in the world. And I always thought that there was so I built jet engines when I was in the military. I thought the processes were wrong. It didn't make sense. And so I reorganized them one day. In doing so, we went from what's called owing squadron. So we had to build 7 engines. It's like basically having like 7 cars not working. And when I fixed the process, we ended up having 14 engines ready to go. And so I didn't know what I was doing at the time. It just made sense. And then as I kept going in my career, I kept doing this thing where I was like just fixing things because they just felt like they needed to be fixed. And everywhere I've gone, I've really leaned into that and trusted that. And so even with this book, it's like, no, there's a better way of doing this. Let me fix it. And so that's kind of, I would say that's it, trusting myself. And I'm not saying I'm the best at it, but more recently, I've been really trusting in my belief of where I want to be and the things that I want to see in the world. And when they don't reflect that, I lean much more into that.
What problem exists in the world today that you'd like to solve?
Yeah, like socially or any kind of problem.
Whatever problem you decide.
I really would love to see this us versus them mentality go away. I mean, speaking to, the Black community, if you have a great business out there, you have a great business. I don't want to be seen as anything less than I am. In fact, it took me years to recognize that I was a Marine. I mean, probably 14 years to say to other people like I was in the Marine Corps because I didn't want special treatment from people. And I wish there was a way that we could break this divide. So I live in Salt Lake City, Utah. We have, the LDS or Mormon culture and the non-LDS and Mormon culture. And I don't know why we continually push divide in that city when all of our goals are to make the city better, so that's what I would love to see, less divide.
What do you want to give and what do you want to get?
I would love to give access to people that don't have it. And I would love to get that as well. I mean, one of the reasons why I took the role with Park City Angels is because I knew nobody in the fundraising world when I was going out. Nobody in my family was really an entrepreneur. No one I knew had ever raised money. And so I took this position so that I could give people like myself the opportunity to be heard. And so, for example, if you are a Utah-based or Mountain West-based company, I will meet with you. I think that's the least that I can do to give people the opportunity to share what they're doing.
And for those that are in that region, if they want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to connect with you, Tim?
The best way is to go to parkcityangels.com and just apply for funding. It may take me a bit to get back to you because we're pretty busy, but I will take a meeting.
Tell us what you're most grateful for now in your life.
I'm actually really grateful for the family that I had, or that I have, I guess. They're very supportive. My mom is really my consultant, if you will. So same with my dad. I just think that, I hear these stories of friends of mine whose parents don't really care about what they're up to. And for me, I think that's so sad. I feel like I could call my parents at 2 a.m. and be like, look, I have this great idea or this stupid idea, and let's just talk about it. And they've always been willing to do that. And they've never been even when I joined the Marine Corps, my parents were like, okay, they just always believed in us and allowed us to live the life we wanted, or even struggle. They allowed us to struggle if they feel like you're going to do you, but they've never really not been there for us.
Let's talk about the worst moment in business. Tell us the story and what was your takeaway?
Yeah. Okay. So my second company that I developed was a mobile gaming company the goal was to encourage people to walk more. So think Pokemon Go, but we were building it before Pokemon Go existed. And so we're going around this community and of pitching people, and nobody would believe us that people would use a video game to spark healthier habits. And it was super frustrating based off the first company that I built, because I actually sold that one. But like, it was just frustrating. I'm like, I'm telling you, if it's done right, like this will get, it could be very lucrative. And then, it would actually get the behavior that we were looking for. And so nobody would believe us, ultimately ran out of money. And so it sucks to shut down a company no matter what. But the worst part about it was I was trying to get a job. So I spent 6 months from the time we decided to shut it down to getting a job, and nobody wanted me, right? Like, I don't know. I interviewed all over the place. Actually, I couldn't even get an interview. I had one interview for a company for about 6 months, and I had 4 interviews with that same company, and I could not get another one. So you go from this super high of running a company. It's awesome. It's in the gaming industry. We're doing some really cool things. And then all of a sudden, you try to switch gears and it's like nobody wants you. And so I ended up at Sam's Club. I have 2 master's degrees and I'm at working nights at Sam's Club. But what I learned, even in my MBA program and through school or through the thing, was network is more important than anything. And I just like, okay, I'm going to lean into that and I'm going to trust that my network will pull through. And ultimately it did. It wasn't the most ideal job, but it was the opportunity that I needed to change my life, really. But I mean, literally, I went from running a company to stocking shelves at Sam's Club. And I'm grateful for Sam's Club. They were there for me when I needed it, but it was very demoralizing.
Let's talk about self-care. What does self-care look like for Tim Cooley?
Yeah, so I would say prior to the last couple of months, self-care was eating a pizza multiple times a week. But honestly, like in the last like month or so, we were talking about this before, but my mom's had some health issues. And it's just one of those triggers where I was like, I actually need to take care of myself. I've always been physically active. I play volleyball and I have a dog and we go on walks and stuff. But from an eating point of view, I was like, it's time to make some changes. And so actually in the last like month or so, in the last like 4 months, eating better. I mean, that's really been a huge one. It's been very difficult. It's probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, but I'm committed.
And share your healthiest meal.
Well, right now I'm using this program called 1% Fitness. So basically it's just a meal prep company. I find that because of the work that I do, where I don't know what my schedule is going to look like, doing a macro style meal from somebody else allows me the freedom to continue to live the life the way I need to, where I don't have to think about food all the time. Does that make sense? So whatever they make me.
Tim, what book would you recommend and why?
Yeah, so my favorite book probably in like the business community is How to Win Friends and Influence People. I think that book, even though it's constantly recommended, is one of the most influential books on learning how to communicate. I don't think as we grow up and become leaders that we really understand the power of influence that we have. I hate the word manipulation, but at some points you need to control the narrative. And I think that book, if you practice what it teaches you, can really give you the tools to either underlead, meaning you're not in charge, and how to, lead somebody above you, or take control of a team and communicate what you want to have accomplished. I think that book from a business point of view. And then from a fun point of view, I think Harry Potter #4 is one of the best books ever written.
There are so many brands and businesses that are dominating. What brand or business that's dominating that you admire and why?
I really love Wendy's at the moment. I think the way that they've tackled social media is awesome. If you haven't, look them up on Twitter. They really have taken on this kind of like sarcastic stance in the marketplace and not kept themselves serious, which I think is really refreshing for big brands, because typically they're just trying to maintain market share and not be really disruptive. So I love that that's what they've done.
What is your weakness as an entrepreneur?
My weakness, honestly, is sales. I'm getting better at it, but there is something in me that I don't like trying to convince you of something. If I feel like I have to like really persuade or convince you, then it goes against everything that I like believe. I like online sales because I don't have to do that. You just sell yourself. But I think that if I could overcome that somehow or hire people that can, that would be a huge thing for me.
The word is listening. What is the resounding sound or message that your generation is saying that we should listen to?
Oh man, that's a hard one right now. I would say that there's a big message in being undervalued in where we are at. Maybe that's just the people that I work with, but a lot of us are better than the people around us treat us. And I think that that's a pretty big red flag in a lot of cases. I think that's why you have turnover in companies and lots of changes. I don't know. I would say something along those lines.
Tim, I want you to have a monologue and I want you to talk to this specific person, living or not living, you decide. And this person has really impacted your life.
Okay.
Who's the person and what are you saying?
So my mom's my person. And I don't know really what a monologue means, but here's the thing. So I love my mom dearly. There are very few people who are at the intellectual capability of myself that can actually carry on a conversation. And I don't mean to be weird about that, but that's just true. And my mom is sick right now. So she had an aneurysm burst and I can't talk to her. So it makes it very difficult when you feel, or when I feel like I can't express myself to somebody who will actually understand and listen. And that has been a very weird thing to get used to. And I don't want to. I don't want to get used to that. So
And we'll be praying for your mom and may she has a speedy recovery.
thank you.
Let's talk about legacy. When it's all said and done, how do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered as a person who gave others opportunity. That if they reached out, that I gave them access to something that they never had access to before. And without me, they would never have had, like, not never, but I made it that much easier to get, at least a foot in the door. I've always done that in my career. And so even in the Marine Corps, and I think that that's the legacy I want. So hopefully at some point I'm on the side of the table where I'm writing checks to people just because I want to see people with crazy ideas get a chance to do them. And I think that would be really rad.
What do you need right now that you don't have to move the needle forward?
Yeah. So the bank account. I mean, to get into the investment world, you have to be an institutionalized investor. That requires a certain size bank account. I'm getting close to that, but that's missing. But, honestly, the thing that I'm missing right now is for other people to share what I'm doing. I think that there's this weird thing in the world where there are certain people who have this ability that people want to tell the whole world about them. Doesn't matter who they are. And then there's other people who we just forget about, and even though they're asking for help for whatever reason, they're just forgotten. And I don't want people to feel that way. And I don't want to be that way. So I want people to share my book, like tell people how to pitch, like, that kind of thing that's what I don't have right now.
What keeps you up at night, Tim, if anything?
Yeah, so the next project keeps me up at night. I have a couple ideas that I'm working on right now. I get really excited about ideas, and when I can't do them right now, I get really like not frustrated but like antsy and I just want to go and do it. I've really learned over the last couple years what my skill sets and capabilities are. And so a lot of the ideas that I end up coming up with fit really well with what I am capable of. And so that's a big one. But more than that, though, I would say is when you and your team aren't on the same page, that's a big, big, big thing for me. And getting people to align to the outcomes and goals. I would say that's more, I mean, the exciting part keeps me up at night, but on the opposite side is we have this team that's doing cool things, yet we're still not very aligned. I think that's bothered me for years.
What's your why?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'll be honest, I don't know if I know yet. I really just like creating tools that help people. And again, giving access to things that people didn't have before. So like the pitch deck book is, I'm going to teach you how to communicate because I didn't know how. I'm going to take a meeting with you because I didn't know how, you know.
What is one valuable lesson you wish you knew before starting your business?
Yeah. I wish I would have gone to school to learn how to code. So back in the 90s, I was learning HTML and stuff, and I got really frustrated because I got stuck and I had nobody to help me. I wish somebody was around to teach me, like, here's a person you can talk to. And I wish I would have learned sales and sales tactics and sales processes much, much earlier on, because if you can make the thing and you can sell the thing, you can get really far in entrepreneurship. You don't have to rely on anybody, at least early on. And then when you can put those processes in place, it makes just everything so much easier from as an entrepreneur. Doesn't make it easy, but just makes it much easier, you know.
Advice you wish you had followed.
The same one I just gave. I wish I would have sold first and then built later. I know that's a myth in a lot of worlds that we live in, but I think what ends up happening is we start too big. My first idea, like now somebody could launch in a weekend, but I had zero money. I was in school. I mean, so I had negative money. And I tried to build a business that was going to take 50 grand just to really get it off the ground. And that was just to get started. I wish somebody would have kicked me in the face and said, like, start with something smaller. You don't need to go this big. Or, you know, and this was told to me many times and I didn't listen, was get a job. Like, get a job, build the company on the side. And I don't think any truer words can be said. There is a moment when you have to believe in yourself, but it's much further down the road than people want to admit.
What is your biggest achievement so far in life or business?
I will say I had everything I ever wanted in 2014. I was married, I had a house, I had 2 dogs. We didn't make any money, which was fine, but like I was very happy. I was life was going really good. My wife came home randomly and was just wanted to get a divorce. And, you know, it took a lot to get back to the things that I wanted. So I have a house again. I have a dog. I'm not married, but I'm happy again. Like I feel secure in the amount of money that I bring in. So I'm not worried about, you know, a paycheck anymore. That's my biggest achievement.
And what is the biggest challenge of being an entrepreneur?
It's worrying about where the next sales come from. So my day job is really in the consulting industry, and it can be hit or miss. It's not as predictable as a physical product or, you know, a SaaS company. So that predictability of revenue is the thing.
Talk to a younger Tim. What advice would you give to a younger Tim?
Yeah. So I think about this question a lot, but what I would have done is I would have been said, get good grades in college. I mean, in high school, and go to a military academy. I really love the Marine Corps, but I think go to a military academy, get the degree, and then learn to build the relationships from those things to set yourself up for the future. And then I would have also suggested to go get an advanced degree at one of the big schools. I was smart and I didn't realize, or maybe I did, but I always fought the notion of pedigree and things like that. And not that you need a degree from Harvard to do something, but it definitely opens up doors. And same thing with a military academy. They just open up doors. So anything you can do that gives you a network that you don't have to work incredibly hard for is very, very important. So whether that's joining a fraternity, joining the military, being involved in some kind of social club, anything you can do in that realm, I would have told myself to do as a younger person.
Tim, what have you not done in life that you dream about often?
I want to ride a bull. Yeah, I think that would be the scariest thing you can possibly do. If anyone knows how to ride a bull, let me know. I keep looking it up, but I can't find some way to do it. That sounds stupid, but that's kind of something I dream about doing.
Who are your top 2 influencers in your life, and what lessons did they teach you?
Yeah, I really respect Gary Vaynerchuk, just from a distance. I love how he gives access to people that don't have access. Like for a while, he did this big campaign of wearing his cell phone number on a shirt. So I really respect him for that. And then, oh man, I mean, really, because my mom's really my biggest influence in the world. She came from really nothing, became a doctor, started her own practice. And so I really just admire the career that she's made for herself.
What is a technology tool or a technology platform that is a must have in managing your business?
Okay, so I'm going to answer this in two ways. I think any kind of CRM that automates outreach is vital. So I'm using a new one right now called Active Campaign. I'm really loving it. Haven't even fully set it up yet, but it's way better than what I was using before. And then another tool that I think is super underrated from a leadership point of view is a platform called Bubble. So bubble.io. Basically, it's a no code platform for creating apps and widgets and things like that. And a lot of entrepreneurs, not only do we have our main product, but we have these other side products that would just help us do our jobs better. And literally, once you learn the platform, you can build whatever you want from a tool perspective. And I think that is just groundbreaking and huge. I've built 5 tools already. I have another one going to come out here soon. And I don't know. I just think it's game changing.
Tim, what is one thing we can do right now to support your business or your book?
Yeah, so I think the big thing here is, if there's opportunities to share the story, whether it's, pitch to a group or like talk to a group on how to present their businesses, I'd love to do that. Obviously, please go buy the book, but and share it, share the information. I don't want this to be one of those things where in a bubble, like this is something that every entrepreneur needs to know how to do. And just please, yeah, have me come talk or send me an email or something. Like let's get you presenting better.
What are your goals for the future for your brand or your business?
Yeah, so my ultimate goal is to build a fund or an accelerator and then coach people up on the areas that I wish I would have had help on. We're actually in the process of doing this, but coaching people up on how to do sales, the process of it, what to say, how to say it, making sure that they can actually sell their product, and then giving them funding along the way so that we can really accelerate them. I mean, push people to sales first and then teach them the other stuff so that they can go and raise money. And then ultimately, my goal is to write $100,000 worth of checks a year. I mean, I would love to do that. I think that would be, if I'm in that position in my life, I don't know if there's any better way of giving back to the rest of the world than to say, I believe so much in you. Here's $25,000 to go and do something.
What do you do, Tim, when you hit that bump in the road?
I go for walks. My biggest struggle when I get stuck is not to give up, but I get really, really frustrated. And so what I've learned, and this is a big thing, like Steve Jobs did this as well, is just I walk, I go for walks with my dog. It's very therapeutic for me. I don't even use music. I just go. And usually at some point in the walk or the next day, I'll solve it. But that's a big one when I can't solve things my own. My issue is when I need someone else to do something and I don't have an answer for that. I just get really frustrated.
Let's talk about business continuity. What is your highest risk as a business owner?
Well, obviously it's running out of money, but I would say the biggest risk is not putting enough, it's not balancing. If you're a small team, it's not balancing sales and product. Sometimes you're going to lean way more on sales because it's either a good time to do it or you need the money. And then you've kind of neglected the product or the service. And then you go the other direction is where you put so much time into the product or service that you've neglected sales. I mean, I think you got to balance those two things, especially as a small team. I don't know if that answers the question, but yeah.
Talk about your most memorable moment in life or business.
Yeah, so I'll talk about 2 things. One, let's talk about business first. I had a young lady who was an artist on our team. There's a book out there called Creativity Inc. If you haven't read it, it's very, very good. But basically it talks about nobody's right, everybody's right, somebody makes a decision. And it's the idea of this collaboration to a better purpose. I strongly believe in that. So we had this artist who was drawing the bad guy in our video game, and she's an amazingly talented artist. And so she comes up with the drawing of the bad guy, and the engineer and I were like, this isn't really very good. Like, it wasn't a bad drawing. It just wasn't representing the bad guy in this thing. She was so proud of this thing that she'd created. And it was very difficult for us to be like, this isn't very good. Like, this doesn't do anything. So what ultimately came out of it was a moment of collaboration where I was like, look, we're not putting you down. Like, we think you're great. Like, I don't know how else to tell you that you're amazing and you're really, really good at what you do, but this just isn't it. And so she went back to the drawing board, very angry, like upset that, we thought she was terrible. And what she built on afterwards was so good. Like, it was this just moment. And she's like, guys, I am so sorry. I took this thing personally. Like, I thought you were attacking me. And we were trying to tell her, like, we're not. But at that moment, it completely shifted our entire company as a collaboration company and not a blaming company. And I will never go back. I always want to be a collaboration company. So that was huge. It really set the tone of how I want to live life, from a business owner and just in general. And then something that was really cool personally is I was in Boy Scouts growing up, and there's this thing called an inverted pyramid. It's a huge structure that you build with tying rope together. Anyway, no one ever had built it that I knew of. And so I grabbed some, logs and stuff and started building this thing. It took me like 6 hours or something. And I did it by myself. And then at the end of the day, we had to lift it up. And this thing probably weighed, I don't know, 1,000 pounds. And so having to pull it up by trucks and stuff. We had to get 3 trucks just to pick it up. But it was like one of those things where, like, I had this idea and I was going to do it no matter what. And then finally, when people saw it coming together, like, we had to rally the troops to stand it up. It was the most rickety. It was scary, but I built it, and it was a cool moment.
Over the last month, what was your biggest win?
Yeah, my biggest win over the last month. Well, obviously talking to you, but honestly, meeting people like you who want to share this book with the world. Every time I get the chance to do this, like, I feel so grateful. I have this mentality, like, sales, to get someone to buy your product is such an honor. Like, what a great, like, moment when someone says, I believe in you so much. Here's $5 for my thing. Like, man, that feels so good. Like, what a great moment. And so when I get to chat with people and share what I built, I just think that that's such a cool moment. So being on your podcast is one of those. We broke 200 sales on the book, which doesn't seem like a lot, but again, like, one sale to me is like, like, every single time someone buys the book, I'm like, I can't believe you're doing this. Like, I mean, I know it's good, but, like, I'm nobody special, And so I find a lot of honor and, grace in that, I guess.
Tim, if you conducted this interview, what is the one question you would have asked yourself? I want you to ask the question and answer it.
Yeah, I guess, man, there's so many questions. I would say, what am I scared of? You've asked some good questions, but I'll say I've been listening to some, like, Tony Robbins and self-help books lately, but I'd say, what's the thing that I'm scared of would be the question. And my answer is actually succeeding in this, because it's that thing you've worked so hard for. And yet, I mean, like, it's like when your book comes, it's like, am I worth you buying my book? I mean, I am, but, like, that takes it to the next level. Like, now you got to do something again and keep proving yourself. And I think that a lot of times, like, people like me who want to show that we're better than what the world thinks we are, we have to keep proving that, whether that means coming up with new ideas or keep getting sales or whatever. It's like kind of living up to your own legacy.
We've come to the part of our interview. It's called Fun Facts Lightning Round. I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and I want you to give me very quick answers. If there's something you desire not to answer, feel free to say pass. Are you ready for the Fun Facts Lightning Round?
I'm ready.
The last movie you saw?
Restrepo.
Your first job.
I worked at Albertsons.
You relax doing what?
Walking.
Your favorite color.
Blue.
Your favorite singer or rapper.
So depending on the genre, I like Garth Brooks in the countryside. I love Michael Jackson, and DMX is my favorite rapper.
Your favorite dance song.
Any of them. I'm a dancer, so anything that gets me grooving.
What food you eat every week, no matter what?
Unfortunately, right now that's pizza.
Your favorite month.
December.
Work out or hit the couch?
Workout. I don't chill. Yeah.
Tim, thank you so much for joining us on Black Entrepreneur Experience Podcast. Before we let you go, why don't you share with our audience the best way for them to connect with you, and feel free to give all your social media handles.
Yeah, absolutely. So the best way to connect with me is Tim L. Cooley, Cooley @gmail.com. So hit me up with any questions you might have, whether it's raising capital or introductions or whatever. LinkedIn, it's just going to be Tim Cooley. All my handles are Tim L. Cooley something. So I'm not really on Twitter, but I do have one that way. And if you're looking for funding, please apply at parkcityangels.com. If you're in that Mountain West region, especially Utah, we will definitely meet with you. And that's about it.
And one thing we want to mention for our giveaway, Tim has decided to give away one of his books to a random listener. So, Tim, why don't you take it away and tell our audience about the book again and how they could win?
Yeah, so the book is called The Pitch Deck Book. You can get it on Amazon, or you can win it. And the best way to win it is to subscribe to Dr. Richard's podcast. We're just going to randomly select somebody who is subscribed, and that's how we're going to choose our winner.
Thank you so much, Tim. That's a wrap.
Thank you.
Subscribe to our mailing list to receive weekly updates and exclusive content delivered right to your inbox. Go to drfrancisrichards.com. That's drfrancisrichards.com to subscribe to our mailing list and be entered into our monthly drawing. That's drfrancisrichards.com, drfrancisrichards.com to subscribe to our mailing list and be entered into our monthly drawing. We promise we won't spam you or sell your information.
Thank you for listening and subscribing to Black Entrepreneur Experience. We would love for you to leave a review and rating on iTunes and share with your friends. For show notes and more episodes, go to www.beepodcast.com. Join us next Wednesday, and remember, green is the new black. So keep your bank accounts and your business in the black.